You've tuned into the deep dive, and today we're really getting into something quite profound from Buddhist thought. You sent us some, well, really interesting sources focusing on this concept of Nibbāna, or unbinding.
That's right. Liberation, essentially, the end goal.
Exactly. And our goal here really is to try and unpack what that actually means. For you, looking at these texts you shared, the Nibbāna Sutta,
Right.
Udana,
Yeah, they're great sources for this.
we'll look at, what holds people back, what helps them get free, what this freedom even feels like, or doesn't feel like, maybe.
Right, that's a key point. And it's dimension, too.
And its dimension, yeah. So even if this is all new territory for you, just hang with us.
Yeah,
There's some really deep stuff here that could honestly change how you see things.
absolutely. You gave us three really key texts. First, there's this chat in the Anguttara Nikaya, AN 4.179. It's the Venerable Sariputta answering questions from Venerable Ananda.
Correct?
Questions like, why do some people manage this unbinding right here, right now, and others? Well, they don't.
The big question.
Totally. Then there's another bit from the Anguttara Nikaya, AN 9.34, where Sariputta talks about how unbinding is actually pleasant. Which sounds weird, maybe.
Yeah, especially if it involves not feeling things in the usual way.
Exactly. And finally, this really evocative part from the Udana, Ud 8.1, where the Buddha himself describes the dimension of unbinding.
Wow, okay.
So it's a rich mix. Let's try and explore what it's getting at for you.
Okay, let's dive right in then. That first question Nanda asks Sariputta. What is the cause, what is the reason why some beings do not become totally unbound in the present life? I mean, that's it, isn't it? What's blocking the way?
It really is the fundamental question. And Sariputta's answer, it might surprise you at first. He doesn't say it's lack of effort exactly or bad karma primarily, but a failure to really understand the nature of our perceptions.
Perceptions. Okay, so not just seeing or hearing.
No, much deeper than that. It's about how we mentally register and interpret everything. And your source note breaks it down helpfully into 4 kinds, each having a different effect on the mind.
All right, 4 types. Let's start with the first. Perception with a share in decline.
Mm.
What does that actually mean day to day?
Well, think about it like this. These are the thoughts, the mental states that just pull you down. They drag you away from any kind of mental calm or focus.
Okay.
The note says they cause the mind to fall from concentration. So maybe you're trying to focus or meditate and wham a worry about bills or a really strong desire for chocolate cake or maybe anger about something someone said.
Right, happens all the time.
Those are perceptions with a share and decline. They just, stir things up, reinforce those old patterns of craving and aversion, and make it really hard to find any peace or move forward, you see.
Yeah, definitely. It's like quicksand for the mind, kind of. You try to get steady, and it just pulls you back in. Okay, so the second type, then, is perception with a share instability. Sounds like the opposite.
Exactly. These are the mental states that actually help you stay focused, build some inner calm.
Like what?
Could be, say, the feeling of peace when you manage to quiet the chatter for a bit, or really staying with your breath, or even like a moment of clarity about how things change impermanence that loosens your grip on things a bit.
Oh, okay.
These act like anchors, They stop the mind from just being blown around by every little thing. It's about learning to settle.
So moving from being pulled down to finding some solid ground. Then number 3, perception with a share in distinction. What kind of distinction are we talking about?
This is getting more refined. It refers to the kind of perceptions that actually help you move into deeper states of concentration, like the jhanas, those stages of meditation.
Meditative absorptions.
Yeah. The distinction is about being able to recognize the subtle differences between these states, the increasing levels of calm and clarity, like a musician hearing finer and finer details in the music.
Okay.
It lets you navigate towards deeper tranquility,
Right.
basically, and more refined awareness.
Got it. So it's not just staying put, but seeing the path forward into deeper states. And the last one, perception with a share in penetration. That sounds significant.
It absolutely is. This is the game changer. This is the kind of perception that leads directly to liberating insight, that deep, intuitive grasp of how things really are.
Like seeing through illusions.
Exactly that. Seeing through the illusion of a separate, permanent self, seeing that chasing happiness in temporary things just doesn't work. It's the insight that cuts right through ignorance. That's what leads to unbinding, the end of suffering.
Wow. Okay, so linking back to Nanda's first question, Sariputta is saying the reason people don't get unbound is because they just don't recognize these different types of perception in their own experience.
Pretty much. They don't see how some thoughts pull them down, others steady them, others lead deeper, and some break the whole cycle.
So without knowing the difference, you're just kind of lost in your own head, reinforcing the stuff that keeps you stuck.
You got it. It really puts the spotlight on developing sharp awareness of your own mind, not controlling every thought, but understanding its flavor, its effect.
That makes a lot of sense. It's all about mindful observation, really. Okay, so then Ananda naturally asks the other side of the question, and what, friend Sariputta, is the cause? Why do some beings become totally unbound?
And yeah, predictably the answer is the mirror image. Sariputta says it happens when beings do understand, they do discern these four types of perception, just as they are.
So it's about actively cultivating that understanding.
Right. When you get skilled at spotting those declined perceptions and can gently shift away, when you actively nurture the stability ones, when you recognize and move into the distinction states, and crucially, when you develop those penetrative insights, that's the path.
It's wisdom cultivated through really paying attention inside.
That's the heart of it.
Okay, so it's not about getting rid of perception, but becoming like a skilled navigator of your own mind, understanding the terrain. Great. That clarifies the path. Now let's tackle this other angle, the pleasantness of unbinding.
Ah, yes, from the other sutta, AN 9.34.
Right, where Sariputta just states, this unbinding is pleasant, friends. This unbinding is pleasant. And then Udayan jumps in, quite reasonably.
Understandably so. He asks, but what is the pleasure here, my friend, where there is nothing felt?
Yeah, because our whole concept of pleasure is tied up with feeling, isn't it? Good food, nice music, warmth. It's all sensation.
It is. Our default mode is pleasure, pleasant feeling. So Udayan's question is spot on. How can something be pleasant if there's no feeling involved in the way we usually mean?
So how does Sariputta square that circle?
Well, he draws a really sharp line between the pleasure of unbinding and what he calls sensual pleasure. And then he defines sensual pleasure very clearly using the framework of the 5 strings of sensuality.
The 5 senses, basically.
Essentially, yes. The experiences that come through the 5 senses that tend to hook us, he breaks them down.
Okay, let's do that. First is forms cognizable via the eye, things we see. Kakovinya yupa.
Yeah.
And he uses all these Pali words to describe them. Agreeable, teasing kanta, charming manapa.
Endearing piyarupa, fostering desire, kamapasanhita, and enticing rajaniya. Yeah, it's quite a list.
It really paints a picture of how sights can grab us, doesn't it?
It really does. It is just likable. Kanta is beautiful, attractive, manapa, pleasing to the mind, piyarupa, something dear or attached to it, kamapasanhita, directly causing desire, and rajaniya, stirring passion, lust. It covers the spectrum of visual attraction.
Okay. And then he applies basically the same list of qualities to the other senses. Sounds via the ear, sota vinyaya sada, smells via the nose, gana vinyaya ganda, taste via the tongue, jiva vinyaya rasa, and touch sensations via the body.
That's right. All these sensory inputs share that potential to be agreeable, pleasing, charming, endearing, desire-fostering, and enticing.
So the pleasure we get from seeing nice things, hearing nice sounds, tasting nice food, feeling nice textures, that whole package is what Sariputta means by sensual pleasure.
That's precisely it. And then he contrasts that with the pleasantness of unbinding. And he does this by walking through the jhanas again, those meditative states.
Okay.
What he shows is really interesting. Even in these incredibly refined, blissful states of mind, as long as there's any kind of attention sticking to any kind of perception, however subtle, it can still be a source of what he calls affliction, stress, dukkha.
Even in deep meditation, let's follow that. First, jhana characterized by rapture, piti, and pleasure, sukha, born from withdrawing from the senses. Pretty nice state.
Sounds great, right? But Sariputta says, even here, if your attention gets snagged by perceptions dealing with sensuality, maybe a memory, a subtle desire that's an affliction, the old hooks are still there.
Wow. Okay. Then the second jhana. Deeper stillness, rapture, and pleasure, born of composure.
Even better. But here, the affliction can arise from paying attention to perceptions, dealing with directed thought and evaluation. Just the subtle activity of the mind analyzing or thinking about the state can become a disturbance.
Fascinating. Okay, third jhana. Equanimity, upekkha, mindfulness, sati, pleasant abiding. Sounds very balanced.
It is. But here, the potential issue comes from attending to perceptions dealing with rapture, like being attached to the joy of the previous state, wanting it back, or even just focusing on its absence. That becomes the subtle affliction.
Attachment even to bliss itself. Okay. Fourth jhana. Pure equanimity and mindfulness, neither pleasure nor pain. Adukama Sukha. Can't get much more neutral than that, right?
You'd think. But Sariputta says even here, affliction can arise from attending to perceptions dealing with equanimity itself. Clinging to the state of balance, making it the object, prevents going further.
Goodness. It's like at every level there's a potential trap of attachment. And then he goes even further into the formless realms.
Yes. Infinitude of space, infinitude of consciousness, nothingness, neither perception nor non-perception. These incredibly subtle states.
And the same pattern holds.
Exactly the same pattern. In each one, he points out that attending to perceptions, dealing with that specific dimension, clinging to the idea of infinite space or infinite consciousness or nothingness that becomes the affliction, the subtle stress.
So the point is, as long as there's any object of attention, any perception, even a super refined one, that we're subtly clinging to, there's still potential for dukkha.
That's the crucial insight. It's not the states themselves that are the problem, it's the attachment to them, the wanting, the holding on.
And then finally he gets to the cessation of perception and feeling. Sanya viveta nirodha.
Right. And there, he says, the mental fermentations, asava, those deep-seated defilements, are completely ended. That's the breakthrough. Going beyond any perception or feeling that could be clung to.
Ah, so that's the pleasantness Sariputta means. It's not pleasant feeling, it's the complete absence of suffering, the absence of any potential for affliction because there's nothing left to cling to.
You've nailed it. It's the pleasure of total freedom from stress. A stable, unwavering peace that doesn't depend on getting nice sensations or achieving certain mental states. It's the peace of letting go completely.
That really reframes the whole idea of pleasure. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got the causes of being bound and unbound through perception and this different understanding of pleasantness. Now that final piece, the dimension of unbinding from the Udana, this feels like the most mysterious part.
It definitely pushes the boundaries of language. This is Udana 8.1, where the Buddha himself describes it, and he does it mainly by saying what it isn't.
Right. Tell us again what he says.
He says, there is that dimension, monks, where there is neither earth, nor water, nor fire, nor wind, so none of the physical elements we know, neither dimension of the infinitude of space, nor dimension of the infinitude of consciousness, nor dimension of nothingness, nor dimension of neither perception nor non-perception.
So not even those highest meditative states we just discussed.
Exactly, none of those apply. Neither this world nor the next world, nor sun nor moon.
Whoa. He's basically negating everything we use to construct reality. Physical elements, subtle mental states, cosmology, everything.
Pretty much. He's systematically dismantling all our usual reference points, pointing towards something completely outside our normal ways of understanding existence, space, time, consciousness. It's not in the cosmos as we know it.
And it keeps going, right? More negations.
Yes, he continues. And there, I say, there is neither coming, nor going, nor staying, neither passing away nor arising.
No movement, no time, no birth or death.
Unestablished, unevolving, without support mental object. Utterly still. Timeless. Independent.
Unestablished. Without support. That's striking. What does that really point to? Your note mentioned links to other suttas.
Yeah, it connects to ideas like unestablished consciousness, consciousness not landing, or depending on forms, feelings, perceptions, etc. And without support suggests it doesn't rely on anything we normally think of as sustaining experience. No mental object, no sensory input, no conditions.
It doesn't need anything to lean on.
Yeah.
Our minds are always leaning on something, a thought, a feeling, a sight, a sound. This is free of all that leaning.
That's a great way to put it. It's completely self-sufficient, utterly independent of all the conditioned phenomena that make up our reality, standing on nothing, as you said, yet totally secure.
And the final line.
The Buddha concludes, simply and powerfully, this, just this, is the end of stress.
Wow. It ties that indescribable, inconceivable dimension directly back to the core problem, suffering, and declares it the ultimate solution. The final piece.
Exactly. It connects the most profound metaphysical description to the most practical, urgent human need, freedom from dukkha. It's mind-bending. It really stretches your conception of what's possible, what reality might even be, beyond our usual senses and thoughts.
It certainly does. And while it might sound incredibly abstract, the whole journey through these texts offers a really practical path for you, for anyone listening.
How so?
Well, look at the progression. Start by understanding your perceptions, which ones cause trouble, which ones help. Then see the limitations of chasing even refined pleasures or states. Understand that real peace comes from non-clinging. And then this glimpse of unbinding as something utterly beyond conditions. It gives you a direction, an ultimate destination for that path of letting go.
It all points towards mindfulness, awareness, letting go, cultivating wisdom, leading towards that.
Precisely. It's a map, in a way.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up for everyone listening. We've seen that not understanding our own minds or perceptions keeps us stuck.
Stuck in suffering.
But by carefully discerning these perceptions, cultivating the helpful ones, especially insight, we move towards liberation, towards unbinding.
That's the active path.
Yeah.
And we learned that the real pleasantness isn't about good feelings, which are always temporary, but it's the profound peace that comes from the total end of suffering, the absence of affliction.
A radically different kind of pleasant.
And finally, the Buddha gives us this, well, almost poetic description of the dimension of unbinding a reality beyond elements, beyond time, beyond space, beyond consciousness as we know it, completely unsupported and unestablished. The end of dukkha.
Yeah, these ancient texts really offer some timeless wisdom, don't they? About who we are, why we suffer, and how we can find freedom. They really invite you to look deeply into your own mind.
Absolutely. This has been, well, a really deep dive, pun intended, I guess. Seriously, though, incredibly insightful stuff from these sources.
That really is a powerful reminder that the path, while maybe not easy, starts right here with understanding our own experience.
So maybe a final thought for you listening to mull over. How are your own perceptions right now shaping how you feel, how you experience things? What kinds of support, thoughts, feelings, beliefs, even things you like are you leaning on, maybe even clinging to?
Yeah, and how might understanding this process better, maybe inspired by some of these ideas, lead you towards a bit more freedom, a bit more well-being right here in your own life? It's always an ongoing exploration, isn't it? It starts with just paying attention.
Great questions to ponder. Well, thank you for joining us on this exploration into Nibbāna through these sources. We hope it's given you some valuable food for thought.
Indeed.
Until our next deep dive, keep exploring, keep questioning with curiosity and maybe a little more